Hello happy crocheters, this is Lindsay from windingroadcrochet.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really easy first aid zipper pouch. If you like this tutorial, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. For this project, you are going to need 2 different colors of worsted weight size 4 yarn. You're going to need a zipper, scissors, a size 5mm size H crochet hook, and you're going to need a yarn needle that will fit your yarn but is still sharp enough to pierce your zipper. So we are going to start by making this piece of the zipper pouch, and then I'll show you how to give it a flat bottom, how to add your zipper, and add a loop to add a carabiner later. Let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to start by making a slip knot. I like to wrap the yarn around my finger twice, pull the first loop in between my fingers and the second loop all the way off of my fingers. Pull tight and that will make a slip knot. Insert your hook, and now we're ready to begin chaining. And you're going to want to chain 27 for our starting chain. Once your starting chain is done, we are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. You can go into the side of the chain, and we are going to work 1 single crochet into every chain down this side of the chain. When you reach the end of the chain, we're going to continue row 1 by working into the opposite side of the chain. So just turn your work so you can work into the opposite side of your starting chain and continue working a single crochet into each chain. When you're done, you'll have a total of 52 single crochets. When you reach the end of the opposite side, now we are just going to slip stitch to the very first single crochet, and that will complete row 1 or round 1. We're going to be working in joined rounds. Now for rows 2 through 6, we are going to chain 1 and work a tapestry single crochet into each stitch. To do the tapestry single crochet, we're going to start by going under the back loop only. So down the center of the stitch and out the back, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now we will yarn under and complete our single crochet. This is going to cause our stitches, so here's yarn over, here's yarn under. This is going to cause our stitches to sit directly on top of each other, which is going to help with the graph that we're putting into this project. So to do this again, go down the center of the stitch and out the back. So we're only going under that back loop. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn under, and pull that through the 2 loops on your hook. If you find this difficult, a back loop only single crochet will work as well. This one just looks a tad nicer. So we are going to do the tapestry single crochet in each stitch all the way around. When you reach the very end of the row, we are going to slip stitch to the very first single crochet, but you want to make sure you skip this last loop here. This is actually our slip stitch, and then this loop here, the small one, is our chain 1. So make sure you're not working into those. So you just want to work into the very last stitch and then skip ahead and slip stitch to the very first single crochet, in which I'm going to slip stitch in the back loop only, as long as I can keep the yarn on my hook. So slip stitching to the back loop only. Now you need to repeat row 2 until you have a total of 6 rows. So you'll chain 1 and work a tapestry single crochet stitch into every stitch around, and just slip stitch to the first stitch when you get to the end of the row. When you reach the end of row 6, now this next row, row 7, we are going to be working the first row of our graph. And really, the stitches are going to be worked exactly the same way. We're just going to be changing colors in these next several rows. So we're going to start with a chain 1, and we're going to do a tapestry single crochet in the first 10 stitches with the color that we are currently working with. So after working your first 10 stitches, on the 11th stitch, we're going to work this in blue, but for that last yarn over, I'm going to grab white and change colors. So there's 11 stitches in blue, and then we're going to work the next 4 stitches in white. And when we work our 4 stitches, we are going to carry the blue yarn underneath our white stitches. So you can do this by holding the blue yarn next to your stitch, and when I go underneath, you're going to see that my blue yarn is right there getting caught up in my stitch. So again, I'm still working the single crochet tapestry stitch, and I'm just going to work 4 in white. On that 4th stitch, I'm going to use the last yarn over with blue and change back to blue. Now I'm going to work the rest of the stitches of this row in blue, but I will continue to carry the white yarn underneath my project, underneath my blue stitches, so they'll be ready for us when we need to pick it up later in the next row. So here I am at the end of row 7. I'm just going to slip stitch the very first single crochet, and then I am going to repeat row 7. So row 7 is going to be exactly the same as row 8, 9, and 10. So we're going to repeat this till we have 4 layers of this white. So again, 11 stitches in blue, 4 in white, and blue the rest of the way around. So here I am at the end of row 10. And this is when we're going to change up our coloration for the next few rows. So if you look at the front, you see I have those 4 rows of white, and now we're going to create the wider part of our cross. So again, continuing the exact same pattern, we're going to chain 1, and this time we are going to work 7 single crochets, tapestry single crochets in blue. On my 7th stitch, I'm going to change over to my white yarn, and then I'm going to work 12 of my tapestry single crochets in white. On the 12th white stitch, I'm going to change my yarn back over to blue and work the rest of the stitches of this row in blue. So you can see how we have the wide section of our cross being formed. We're going to work the blue all the way around the rest of the way. When you reach the end of the row, we are just going to slip stitch to the very first single crochet, and then we're going to repeat row 11 until we have a total of 14 rows, or a total of 4 wide white sections. So here I am at the end of row 14. I'm just going to slip stitch to the very first single crochet, and now what we're basically going to do is go back to our original pattern. So we are going to chain 1. We are going to work 11 single crochet, tapestry single crochets in blue. On the 11th stitch, we are going to change over to white, and then work 4 tapestry single crochets in white. On the 4th stitch, we will change back to blue, and then work the rest of the stitches of the row in blue, which should be about 37 stitches if you're trying to keep track. So when you reach the end of row 15, we're going to slip stitch to the first single crochet, and now you're going to repeat row 15 3 more times until we have a total of 18 rows. Here I am on row 18, and I did just want to show you that after working the very last white single crochet, I am going to clip my yarn. I will stop carrying it at this point, and then I'll just take my blue yarn and work the rest of the way around this row. So here I am at the end of row 18. I'm just going to make my slip stitch to the first single crochet, and now all we need to do is do 2 more rows completely in blue. So row 19 and 20, you're just going to, still using the tapestry single crochet, work a stitch in every stitch around, slip stitch at the end, and then repeat that row. So I'm at the end of row 20. I'm just going to work a slip stitch, and I am going to fasten off with very dull scissors. I'm sorry. So then you're just going to yarn over and pull it through the very last loop. Pull your yarn all the way through, and you can see how we've worked those last 2 rows solid blue at the top. Now I'm going to show you how to go ahead and sew in your zipper. We're going to make a loop for a little carabiner, and then I'm going to show you how to make a flat bottom for this pouch using a really fun sewing trick. So before you begin sewing, you do want to make sure that you have a needle that is going to be able to pierce your zipper. You can sew with thread here, but I'm just going to sew with the yarn that I have. Just going to thread this through. And then for your zipper, you definitely want to unzip it. It's going to make sewing it much easier. We're going to take this flap and fold it back, and when we start sewing, we're going to sew that down. And also when you sew, you want to make sure you leave about 1/4 of an inch of the zipper above your work, because if we sew it too close to our yarn can get caught in the zipper and just make it very difficult to work. So I'm going to start on the inside of my zipper so that my yarn ends are on the inside, and I am just going to sew back and forth through that very last row of stitches. It's going to be a little bit difficult to do, but it doesn't take very long to sew in a zipper, and it really makes your pouch just a really nice, useful pouch. So I'm going to sew all the way down to the other end, and then I'm going to sew right back up to this first end. So I'm going to sew back and forth for this one side. So I've sewn all the way down one side, and this is what it looks like so far. I am going to take the very end of this. You can obviously tell the zipper is too long. I will just zip that up and tuck that end into the pouch. And now I'm just going to sew right back down the other side, and then I will knot it with my beginning yarn. So here I've made it back to the beginning, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to knot this 2 or 3 times and just clip my yarn ends. You can also knot it and then weave in your yarn ends if you'd rather do that, but I'm being lazy today, so I'm just going to clip them. And then I'm going to sew up the other side exactly like I did this side, and the zipper portion will be done. So here's my finished zipper. Definitely recommend a contrasting color for your zipper because it looks really fun and colorful. So the next thing we're going to do is make a flat bottom for our pouch. We're going to do this by turning our pouch inside out. I still have some yarn ends to weave in on the inside. Make sure you get your corners out. And then what we're going to do is take that side seam, or where a side seam would be, and press that flat against the bottom seam in order to make a point. So that's where our side seam would be, pressing it straight against the bottom seam of our bag. And now I'm going to grab some yarn and another needle. And then from the side, I'm going to count up 4 rows. And I'm just going to sew a seam directly across those 4 rows. So I'm going to speed this up for you, but I'm just going to sew directly across. And then I'm going to sew back. I like to go back and forth just to make everything nice and secure. When I get to the end, I'm going to knot the 2 ends together. I'll knot it 2 or 3 times and then clip the thread, or you can weave it in. Now we are going to flip the bag over and do the same thing to the exact opposite side. So you have your side seam, your bottom seam, push those together to create a point, count up 4 rows, 2, 3, 4, and then just sew across there on the other side. Once both sides are sewn, we're just going to flip our item right side out. This time you'll have 4 corners to push out, and you'll see how we have a nice little flat bottom on our little first aid bag. Now you can definitely leave it like this, put it in your car, put it in your purse, put it in a backpack, but I'm going to go ahead and add a little loop on the side so I can add a carabiner and be able to hang it on things. So to make our loop, we're just going to make a slip knot, leave enough yarn so you can weave in your end and sew it to the pouch, and I'm just going to chain 10. Then we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. This time I'm going into the back bumps because it is going to be the finished bottom of our piece, but if you want to work into the chain another way, that is completely okay. We're just going to single crochet in each chain all the way down. That's going to give us a total of 9 single crochet. When you reach the end of the row, we are just going to chain 1 and turn and single crochet in every stitch down this row as well. When you reach the end of row 2, we're just going to fasten off, again leaving enough yarn to be able to sew this onto our project. Yarn over and pull it through the very last loop. Now fold your loop in half. I'm going to grab a yarn needle and we're just going to sew it onto the side right here. And I'm just going to speed this up again as I sew these loop together, and then I sew it directly onto my pouch. I'm going to sew it and knot my ends again, and this time I'm going to tuck my ends on the inside. I can grab my carabiner and place it through my loop. There you go. So there is your finished pouch. Still need to weave in a few ends, but otherwise everything is done. You can fill it with Band-Aids, with Neosporin, with a hand sanitizer, or anti-itch cream, or anything that you need when you're on the go. So I hope you enjoyed the video tutorial. Make sure to check out my other quick and easy video tutorials. And thank you as always so much for watching.